In today's class, we are going to see about Huffman coding. First, let us understand what is the meaning of encoding and decoding, then we will proceed with that. So encoding is nothing but when you want to communicate through the internet, you have to create a message and then you have to change the message to the binary format and then you have to send it to the other user. Okay, after changing the message into binary format, we will even convert into signals, then we will send it to the other user. And encoding is a process of creation of the messages that a user wants to communicate with the other user in a binary format. And after the message arrives at the receiver will be doing the process of decoding. Decoding is regenerating the original message back from the encoded data. So when you want to do this process, when you want to do the process of encoding, let us assume first one example, then we will see how it is working. Assume that a user wants to communicate a message which contains only 5 alphabet A to E, and the alphabets are having frequency as follows. For simplicity, I am assuming that my message contains only 5 alphabet. The frequency indicates how many times that particular alphabet is appearing in your message. And it means that the letter A is appearing 50 times in my message, but it need not be continuous. It can appear in different places. If I count how many times it is appearing totally, I'm getting the frequency as 15. Likewise, for every character, I am assigning a frequency based upon the occurrence of that particular character in my message. Now let us see the types of encoding. First, we have two different types of encoding based upon how many bits you are using for representing a particular symbol. One encoding is called as fixed length encoding and the other is known as variable length encoding. In case of fixed length encoding, every symbol in your message is coded with the same length. Same length in the sense, same number of bits will be used for generating the code for that particular character. Let us consider a famous fixed length encoding scheme we know, that is ASCII code. ASCII stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. This ASCII is used by our computer, and whenever you type a character in your keyboard, there will be a ASCII code corresponding to that particular character that will be sent to your processor for doing the further processing. So this ASCII code is a 8-bit code. So if you take your character, every character is going to have only 8 bits. So if you want to represent a certain number of characters, first you have to decide how many bits you need to represent the characters. It depends upon the total number of characters you want to encode. Suppose if I want to encode maximum of 256 characters, 2 power 8 is equal to 256, so I'll be generating 8 bits to represent the characters. Suppose if I want to represent maximum of 1000 characters, you need to go for 10 bits because 2 power 10 is equal to 1024. If you select 9 bits, you may not be able to generate 1000 different characters. So the number of bits you are choosing depends upon the maximum number of characters you want to encode. In ASCII, we have 8-bit character code. But nowadays in the internet, we are generating different types of messages in different languages. Like Chinese people also want to communicate, and in India we have different languages. When we want to communicate, we need to go for more number of characters. The character set is vast now. It includes various languages. And to generate those different characters, 8 bits are not sufficient. So in internet, if you consider recent programming languages, they have a special character code known as Unicode. In Unicode, the number of bits for representing characters are increased. Okay, so you can represent more number of bits in Unicode. But now, for simplicity, I am going to assume that I am going to deal with ASCII code. So in fixed length code, for every character, I am going to represent only 8 bits. Now let us see what is the other category, that is variable length encoding. In case of variable length encoding, the symbols may be coded with variable length, that is varying number of bits, depending upon the frequency of the occurrence. So you have to consider a particular message you are going to send. In that, you count how many times different symbols are occurring, and according to that, you give a value to that particular symbol. Then based upon the value only, you are going to give the code to that particular symbol. And if a character is appearing more frequently, then that will be given the smallest code. Whichever is appearing most frequent character, that will have the smallest length code, and which is appearing least frequent character, then that will be given the largest length code. So why we are following that is, you want to most frequently occurring character means, for that if you give less number of bits, you can save the total number of bits you are sending. Similarly, if it is least frequently occurring character, anyway it is not appearing many times, so give largest number of bits for that. Okay, so this is how the variable length encoding proceeds. Now let us see one example to understand this. So here I have the 5 different characters A to E and the frequency is listed here. If I go for the ASCII encoding, for every character, I'm going to use only 8 bits. Here the ASCII value of A is 65 in decimal. If you represent that in binary, you will get this particular 8-bit combination. So for every character in ASCII, we are generating 8 bits. So all are shown here. And then if you go for variable length encoding, you can give different number of bits for every character depending upon the frequency of the character. So out of the 5 characters, 50 is the highest frequency that is associated with character A. So for character A, I have to give the smallest code. So smallest length code is nothing but for character A, I am giving 0, it is having only 1 bit. If I go for ASCII, I am giving 8 bits, but now since it is appearing more frequently, I am giving less number of bits to it. So I am giving only 1 bit. Likewise, I am giving different codes for all the characters. If you consider E, it is having the least frequency. So for that, I am giving 4 bits. When compared to this A, I am increasing the number of bits here. Okay, so this is called as fixed length encoding and variable length encoding. Now let us see what is the advantage we will get when we go for variable length encoding. For that, we have to consider totally how many bits we are transmitting in the data. So when I go for fixed length encoding, if I want to send my message according to this frequency, for A is appearing 50 times. Every time I have to send 8 bits for A. So total number of bits sent for A is 50 multiplied by 8. Then B is appearing 30 times. Every time you are sending 8 bits. So 30 multiplied by 8 is for B. Then for C it is 20 multiplied by 8. And for D 2 multiplied by 8. And for E 1 multiplied by 8. The first is the frequency and second is total number of bits you are using for representing that particular character. So in case of ASCII, to send the message, totally I'll be sending 824 bits. Suppose if I go for variable length encoding, let us see how many bits are required to send the message. So here, according to this particular encoding scheme, A is appearing 50 times. And for sending A, I am using only 1 bit. So 50 multiplied by 1 for A. Then for B, 30 multiplied by 3 bits you are sending for B. So 30 multiplied by B, 3. Then for C, it is again 3 bits. So 20 multiplied by 3. Then for D, we are sending 4 bits here. So 2 multiplied by 4. For E, we are sending again 4 bits. Frequency is 1. So 1 multiplied by 4. So total number of bits you will send when you use variable length encoding is 212. So now you can compare both the schemes. The characters I am sending in both the schemes are same. But when I go for fixed length encoding, I am sending more number of bits. And in case of variable length encoding, I am reducing the number of bits I am transmitting. So now let us see what are the advantages we will get when we go for variable length encoding. If we use variable length encoding, we can compress the message because we are assigning less number of bits for most frequently occurring character. So because of that, we are totally reducing the number of bits we are going to transmit. And because of that, what advantages we will get? Many times we want to communicate the data to other person through the internet. So when you reduce the number of bits in your communication, you can save your communication bandwidth. That is the resource of your internet. So when you save the communication bandwidth, definitely you are reducing the communication cost. That is the first advantage. And the second advantage is, sometimes I may not send anything through the internet, just I want to store the data in my computer. So all of us are storing our data in our hard disk. The capacity of the hard disk is limited. If you store the data as such, it may occupy more capacity. So generally what we will do when we run out, when we have the shortage of the space in our hard disk, we generally compress the files and then we will save it. That is going to reduce the storage cost. So by means of compression, we can reduce the communication cost as well as the storage cost. So that is the main advantage of going for variable length encoding. Now let us see how we have to proceed with variable length encoding. Is there any ambiguity when we go for variable length encoding? So all of us know that in ASCII, if I tell you A, all of you will know that A stands for 65. And also we have 8 bits. So we will convert, we will take 8 bits and we will change it to a particular character. But in case of variable length encoding, the number of bits for every character is changing. So how many bits you are going to consider, extract from a message to understand a particular character? That is not fixed because it is changing. So because of that, we will get a problem. Let us see what is the ambiguity we will get when we go for variable length encoding. So now let us consider a message which contains 3 characters A, B and C. Now I know that I have an advantage when I go for variable length encoding, but I don't know anything about the generation of the code. So simply by random, I am selecting some codes and I am assigning to the 3 different characters A, B and C. Suppose if I assign A with 1 and B with 0 and C with 1, 0. Let us assume that this is the assignment I have done. I'm using variable length encoding because A and B are having 1 bit, whereas C is having 2 bits. So it is changing. It is not always 8. So now let us see. I want to communicate with my friend. I want to send a message A, B, B, C. So what I will do, I have this table. I'll look at the table. I will generate the code for that. So A is having the value as 1. So I will write the binary data 1 for A. Then for B, the binary value is 0. So write it. It is appearing 2 times. So I am writing 0 2 times. Then I have C. For C, I have chosen 1, 0. So I'm writing 1, 0 now. So I have constructed a message like this, which is having totally 5 bits. If I go for ASCII, I'll have 4 multiplied by 8, 32 bits. But now I am sending only 5 bits. Okay, it is good. I'm reducing the number of bits. But let us see what will happen if my friend receives the message. Will he be able to reconstruct the message or not? Let us see the decoding now. Decoding is nothing but once you receive the message, try to retrieve back the original message transmitted. Now we are getting in binary format. You have to convert back into the symbols. So you need to decode it. So first, now this table is known to my friend also. So I will give this table also to my friend. So he will look at the table. First he is having 1. So he will take 1. He will see this table. 1 is for A. So he will write A. Then next I have 2 zeros. So he will see the table. B is having 0. So he will write B 2 times. Then he will take 1 again. 1 is having the value A. So again A will be considered. Then 0. 0 is for B. So B is now the decoded data. If you consider the data, my friend is interpreting now the message as A, B, B, A, B. But what I have transmitted A, B, B, C. But my friend is interpreting in the wrong way. But he knows this table. Even with that, my friend is not able to construct a unique message. Let us see how he can construct in another way. Suppose if he is taking the first 2 characters instead of 1, if he is taking the first 2 symbols 1, 0, he will interpret that as C. Then another next 1, 0 is coming, that can be interpreted as B. Next 1, 1 is coming, this can be interpreted as A. Another 0 is there, it can be interpreted as B. So now a particular message is interpreted as CBAB. Previously it is interpreted as ABBAB. Now CBAB. But I have transmitted something else. So now we are getting this problem. So what is the problem we have now is the same message can be interpreted in multiple ways by different users. Even the same user can interpret in many ways. So why we are having this problem? So let us see how to avoid this problem. So to avoid this problem, we have to use something known as prefix code. So let us first understand the disadvantage in the previous approach, then we will come to prefix code here. So now you can see this. The code for A is 1, okay? And this code is prefix in the code for C. That means in C, I have 1, 0. In 1, 0, first I have this 1 as a prefix. Because of that only, I am having this problem. So now I want to avoid this problem. So for that, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to choose something known as prefix code. So what is the definition of prefix code? In case of prefix code, code assigned to one character should not be the prefix of the code assigned to another character. Let us understand with the example. Let me consider that I want to send 3 characters A, B and C. For A, I am selecting the code as 10. Then for B, I am selecting the code as 0. For C, code is 110. Now you consider this first code 10, it is having 2 digits. Now you check higher number of bit code and check whether this 10 is appearing as a prefix in that code. Here, this is having 3 bits. So in the 3-bit code, I will first check the first 2 bits. It will not be 10. You can see here, this is 10. First 2-bit of any 3-bit code or 4-bit code or 5-bit code will not be 10. So it is not there. Similarly, you take a 1-bit code, that is here I have B as 0. Now you check 2-bit code, 3-bit code, 4-bit code and so on. First digit will not be 0. Okay, so here I have 0. The codes are now 10 and then 110 only. So I don't have this 0 as a first bit of any other code. So this is called as prefix code. Code assigned to one character should not be the prefix of the code assigned to any other character. So now because of this prefix code, anybody can decode the message in a unique way. Unique way means I will get only one answer if I decode it. So let us check how to decode this particular message. I have the messages 10010. First, I will take only 1 bit. I'll check all the 1-bit code for this match. In 1-bit code, I have only B, but it is having a value as 0. So that means I don't have any 1-bit code with the value 1. So now I have to check for 2-bit code. So take 2 bits 10. Check all the 2-bit codes for the match. So for A, I have 10. There is a match. So now these 2 bits should be interpreted as A. After you finish the 2 bits, go for the 3rd bit. Again, you have to consider bits 1 by 1 only. First start with 1 bit. If you don't find any code, go to 2 bits, then 3 bit and so on until you find a matching code. Now I am taking 0. For 0, there is a match. So it is B. So I am going to write B for 0. Then I will start with 1. I'll take 1. There is no code with value 1. So I have to take 2 bits now. So I am taking 10. There is a code with 10, that is A. So I am writing the message as A. So now, if you use this prefix code, whatever message you are sending, you can send the message and you can decode it without any ambiguity. Okay, so and here another advantage we have, we are not using the fixed length code, we are using only variable length code. Because of that, we can reduce our communication cost and then storage cost. Now, this is how we are going to proceed with variable length coding. Now, let us see how to generate this variable length prefix code. If you are using ASCII code, there is a standard table available. Anybody can use that table. But now, if you are going for a variable length prefix code, that code depends upon the message what you are going to communicate. So, every time it is going to change according to the message, because from the frequency of the characters appearing in the message only, we are going to construct the variable length code. So let us see how to generate it. So if I want to generate a variable length prefix code, I need some algorithm. So the standard algorithm existing for this purpose is called as Huffman algorithm. And this Huffman algorithm comes under the category known as lossless data compression algorithm. Since we are reducing the number of bits in the algorithm, it is known as compression algorithm. And when we say an algorithm as lossless, the meaning is if you apply the algorithm in the decoding process, you will be able to construct the original message back. Now, let us continue with the algorithm. This algorithm is developed by a person known as David Huffman and named after him. And it is called as a greedy algorithm. So what is the meaning of greedy algorithm is? It is an algorithmic paradigm where we are going to find a solution to a given problem step by step. And in every step, always you are going to select that particular step which is going to give you optimal solution. So every time there may be multiple options available. I'll be selecting only the solution which is going to give me the optimal answer. Okay, so that is called as greedy algorithm. So this Huffman algorithm comes under the category of greedy algorithm. Now, let us see the steps in the Huffman coding. When you want to proceed with the Huffman coding, there are 2 steps in the algorithm. The first step is you have to construct the Huffman tree, and this is a min heap tree from the input characters and then their frequency. So here you all know what is the meaning of heap tree. Heap tree is a complete binary tree, and there are 2 different versions of heap tree, min heap and then max heap. When we go for min heap, in every subtree, the root node will have a value which is lesser when compared to its children. So this Huffman code is based on the concept of min heap tree. Then the first step is you have to construct the Huffman tree from the input character and their frequency. Once you finish the tree construction, you have to traverse the Huffman tree. Then you have to assign code to the characters. Our aim is we want to find the prefix code for every unique character. So for that, we have to traverse the tree. Then you have to assign the codes to the character. Now let us see all these steps one by one. So my first step is I have to construct the Huffman tree. So how to do that? So in that, we have the algorithm for that. In the algorithm, first you have to create a min heap with all the unique characters based upon the frequency. The input to you will be, I'll be giving you what are all the unique characters I have in my message, then along with their frequency. Now with the help of those characters, you have to generate the min heap. Yeah, we have already seen the algorithm for inserting a node in a min heap. Whenever we insert a node in a min heap, we will be rearranging the tree in such a way that whichever is having the minimum value, that node will be appearing as a root node. So every time when you insert a new node, the tree will be reconstructed again and again. So whatever is the character given to you, with all the characters, you construct the min heap based upon the frequency. After that, once the tree construction is over, you have to extract two nodes from the min heap. What is the meaning of extracting is delete the node. So I have to delete two nodes. Which node I can delete? Always in a min heap or max heap, you can delete only the root node. So I am going to delete two times. When I delete first time, I'll be getting the minimum value that is present in the tree. Once I remove that node, the tree should be again reconstructed. Then the next minimum value will appear as a root node. So I have to call the delete function again to delete that node. After I delete the second node, again I have to reconstruct my tree. Okay, so by this way, you extract two nodes with the minimum frequency from the min heap. Always the node with minimum frequency will be available only as a root node. So delete a root two times. After that, you have two nodes in your hand. So with those two nodes, you create a new internal node. And this internal node is not in your original message. It is a new node you are creating. And this node should have a frequency. So to calculate the value for the frequency of this node, we are going to find the sum of the frequency of the two extractor nodes. Once you find the sum of the two frequencies, you are going to create a new node with that value. Then in a tree, every node is going to have the children. Now I'm going to attach now child node for the newly created internal node. So how I am going to attach the child nodes? For that, there is a rule. Whichever is the first extractor node, that should be formed as a left child of the new internal node, and the second extractor node should be connected as a right child. So what is the meaning is, out of the two values, whichever is having minimum value, that should be the left child, and whichever is having maximum value, that should be the right child. Okay, so now you have connected children to the newly extracted node. Sorry, newly formed node, internal node. Now you have to add the new internal node to the min heap. We have removed two nodes from the min heap and we have created a new internal node. You add now the new internal node to the min heap. When you add, it will be disturbing the min heap property. So again, call the insertion process so that the new node will be inserted according to the rules of the min heap. And once you do that, you have to repeat steps 2 up to 5 until your heap contains only one node. So how my heap will contain one node? Because first I'm starting with so many nodes. Every time I'm deleting two nodes, adding one node. Because of that, the number of nodes in the heap will be reducing. Finally, my heap will contain only one node. That will be the root node of that particular tree. At that time, I have to stop my process. Because when I want to proceed further, I need two nodes, but I have only one node. So stop your algorithm. So this is the algorithm for constructing the Huffman tree. Now let us see one example for this. I have a file with 6 different characters, A to F. I have counted the frequency of every character and it is listed here. So if you want to proceed with the Huffman coding algorithm, you need the characters along with their frequencies. Now that is given to you. Let us proceed with the algorithm. So first step is I have to extract two minimum frequency nodes from the min heap. So now I am going to assume that with this data, I have already constructed my min heap. So now what will be the root of the min heap? If you see, A is having the lowest frequency. So that will be the root of the min heap. So first I have to extract two minimum frequency nodes. That means I'll call the delete function 2 times. So first time I'll be extracting 15, and second time, whichever is the next smallest number, that will be extracted. That is nothing but 20. Okay, so I'll extract now two different numbers, 15 and 20. These are the least frequency values present in this min heap. Then after you extract two different nodes are going to form the internal node, new internal node. So how to find the frequency of the new internal node? It is not existing in our original message. It is a new node we are creating. So add the frequency of these two nodes. 15 and 20 is 35. So I am creating a new node with the frequency as 35. Then I have to connect these two nodes as a child node now. So which will be the right child and which will be the left child? That I have to decide. So out of these two, whichever is having lower value, that will be the left child, and whichever is having higher value, that will be the right child. So 15 is the left child and 20 is the right child now. Now, if you see here, I have highlighted 15 and 20 in red color. Meaning is those two are deleted from the min heap. Now, I am going to add the new internal node to the min heap. So 35 is added. So currently I have 22, 23, 26, 56 and 35 in my min heap. So what will be the root of this particular min heap? Out of these 5 nodes, whichever is having lowest value, that will be the root at that point of time. So now 22 will be the root for this min heap. So what is my next step? I have to again extract 2 nodes with lower frequency value. So I am going to now extract 22 and then 23. So now I am extracting 22 and 23. Then I am forming a new internal node by adding the frequency of these 2 nodes. So 22 plus 23 is 45. So the frequency of the new internal node is 45. Now I have to add this new node into the min heap. So I have deleted 22 and 23. So highlighted in red color, I have added the new internal node 45. So currently I have only 4 nodes in the min heap. So the next step is I have to again extract 2 nodes from this min heap with lowest frequency. So I am extracting first 26. After that I am extracting 35. So you have to combine 26 and 35. So in this diagram already I have drawn 35 here. So I have to combine 26 and 35. I have to form a new node. The value of that node is 61. By adding 26 and 35 we are getting 61. And remember, here the lowest number 26 will be the left child and the highest number 35 will be the right child. Now, what is the next step? We have deleted 26 and then 35. We have added 61. So our new heap is with 3 nodes, 56, 45 and then 61. So the next step is again delete 2 nodes with minimum value. So I am going to delete now 45 first, followed by 56. So already 45 is here. So you can now add 56. From these 2 nodes form a new internal node with frequency 45 plus 56, that is 101. Then delete 45 and 56 from this tree, add the new node 101. So it is added. Then again extract 2 nodes from the min heap. I am going to extract now 61 and then 101. So I am going to form a new node with these 2. 61 is the lower number, so that should be the left child, and 101 should be the right child. So I am forming the new internal node and the value of that node is 162. Then you delete 61 and 101 from the min heap, add 162 to that. Now in the min heap we have only one node. When we have only one node, we have to stop our process. That means that we have successfully converted the given data into a Huffman tree. If you look at the tree, this tree, for constructing this tree, we have used the min heap. But this tree is not a min heap tree. You can look at the root node. The root node is 162. It is not a minimum value. We have simply added the values. Finally, we arrive at 162. So remember, for constructing the Huffman tree, we are using the min heap. But Huffman tree is not a min heap tree. Now the first step of the encoding process is over. So what we have to do next? We have to find the code to different characters, and that code should be unique code, and none of the code should be the prefix of other code. Let us see how we are getting that by means of this Huffman tree. So for that, we have to traverse the Huffman tree to find the final codes. So in this process, for all the edges we have in the Huffman tree, we are going to assign weights. So what are the two weights we are going to assign? If you consider, every node is going to have only two edges, two outgoing edges. Because it is a binary tree, every node will have only two children at the maximum. So to one edge, you assign a value of 0, and to the other edge, you assign a value of 1. Because we have two edges, so binary numbers are enough. So I am choosing 0 and 1. And when you are doing so, you have to follow a convention. The convention is, if you assign 0 to the left edge, you have to assign 1 to the right edge, and this process should be followed throughout your entire tree. You cannot change the process in the middle. If you choose that, I am going to apply 0 to the left edge and 1 to the right edge, the same thing should be followed throughout the entire tree. Or otherwise, you can choose 1 to the left edge and 0 to the right edge. Choose any one of these two methods and then proceed with your process. Now I am going to select the first method. In my tree, if I encounter any left edge, I'll be assigning 0. If it is right edge, I'll assign 1. Let us see the process of assigning the weights to the edges. So I'm going to start with the root node 162. It is having two edges. To the left edge, 0 is assigned. To the right edge, 1 is assigned. Then go to the node 61. Again, there are two edges present. Assign 0 to the left edge, assign 1 to the right edge. Go to 35. There are two edges present. Assign 0 to the left edge and 1 to the right edge. If you see the nodes 26, 15, and 20, they are the leaf nodes. The leaf nodes will not have any outgoing edges. So we are not going to assign any edges, any weights for that. Okay, we are going to stop when we reach the leaf node. Then proceed to this particular branch, that is the right branch. In that, we have 101. And 101 is having two edges. So assign 0 to the left and 1 to the right. Then go to 45. Again, two edges are there. Assign 0 to the left and then 1 to the right. Now our process of assigning edges to the assigning weights to the edges are over. Then we are going to construct the code. Okay, now we are going to find out the code for all the characters. If we want to find out the code for all the characters, we have to see where our input characters are appearing. They will always appear as a leaf node in the Huffman tree. So you have to now assign code to the characters. So start from the root of the Huffman tree and traverse till you reach the leaf node. And when you are traversing, you will come across certain edges. So whatever is the weight of those edges, write all the weights one by one in the same order in which you are traversing. So that will be the code for that particular leaf node. Let us consider for the node E. First, I am starting with the root node. So root node is having the value 162. E is present in the left subtree. So I have to proceed to the left subtree. So I am going to first internal node 61. I have an edge with weight 0. So I have to consider that. Then go to the next edge. It is 0 again. So now with that edge, you are reaching the node E. So now you have come across two edges with the weight 0, 0 in the order. So the code for E will be 0, 0. Now let us assign the code for A. Start with the root node again. Go to the left edge. It is 0 weight. And go to the right edge from there because A is present in the right subtree of 61. So we have the edge weight as 1. Then from 35 you go to the left, we have the weight as 0. So now we came across through three edges with weights 0, 1 and 0. So the code for A will be 0, 1, 0. Now let us consider the third node B. For this, first start with the root node, go to the left, then from there go to the right, and from there again go to the right. So we have three edges now. The weights are 0, 1, 1. That is the code for node B. That is data character symbol B. Then take C. It is again I'm starting with the root node, go to the right. Then from there go to the left. Again from there go to the left. Now we have three edges. The weights of the edges are 1, 0, 0. So that is the code for C. Similarly, we can assign code for node D and F. For node D, we will have the code as 1, 0, 1. And for node F, we will have the code as 1 and 1. Every time when you assign the code to the character, you have to start only with the root node. Don't start in the root node of any subtree. Start with the root node of the entire tree. Now we got the code for all the different characters. So now let us write the codes as a form of as a table. So now I started with the characters along with the frequencies. Then I constructed the Huffman tree. After that, I traversed the entire tree. I got the code for different characters. Now let us check whether these codes are prefix code, because our aim is we have to generate a prefix code. So how to check it? First, see which is having least number of bits in the code. Okay, I have E and F. So those two bits, that is for E, I have 00. You take any 3-bit code or 4-bit code, these two bits will not appear as the first two bits. So check the 3-bit codes. I have 4 different codes. None of the codes are having 00 as their first 2 bits. So it is a prefix code. Similarly, check 11. None of the 3-bit code or 4-bit code will have 11 as their first 2 bits. So I have like this. So this is following the property of a prefix code. And also, based upon the frequency, the codes are assigned. Whichever character is having higher frequency, for that we will have less number of bits in the code. That is, F is having the frequency as 56. It is having only 2 bits in the code. And the least frequency is A. It is having the frequency as 15. For this, more number of bits will be assigned. Our aim is, if a frequency is more, then it means that that character will appear many times. So I have to give less number of bits to that character so that I can reduce the total number of bits. So we have done it now. Now let us do how to do the encoding and decoding of the message with this particular table we have constructed. So I want to send ABEF. First, A is having 3 bits, 0, 1, 0. So that is written here. Then for data B, we have 0, 1, 1. Write it next. Then for E, we have 0, 0. So that will be the third one. And for F, we have 1, 1. So you can write now. So if we consider this particular example, we have started with the frequency and we have generated this code. In this, if you go for fixed length ASCII encoding, you might have used 32 bits for this particular message. But now, according to the table we have constructed, we are going to have only 10 bits in this message. You can count the total number of bits here. There are 10 bits. For the same message, we are reducing the number of bits. So what we have done, we have successfully done the compression process. Compression is nothing but reducing the number of bits in your message. So we have done compression with the help of the Huffman algorithm.